Thank you, Chair. CS, I've heard you, and you're very persuasive. I'm happy that on your immediate right is my good old friend, Albert. Albert, we have worked with him, Mwendwa. From 2013, we've been in this room. And you know that at no stage have we been approached by the executive in the manner you're doing today, whereby you've made an executive decision which amounts to legislation, and you are asking the legislators to then adopt the executive decision as if it was legislation. In effect, what the legislator by this action is doing is you are amending the Division of Revenue Act of 2024, which is already law. You have no power to amend it at all. So we can do all these things and be friendly, look nice to each other because we are broad-based. We don't want anybody to appear to disagree. But the courts are waiting. They'll weigh their decision on the Division of Revenue Act of 2024 and say that what we have done is therefore illegal. Having said that, yes, you have convinced us that the challenges you have include under collection of revenue. That's fine. You know, there are serious taxpayers in this country who evade tax payment for many reasons, some of them unfortunately including the impunity whereby they are aided by unscrupulous people at the Kenya Revenue Authority. Finally, the long and short, Minister, of all the issues spoken to by Senator for Migori and the Chair is that the non-discretionary obligations to the county governments have been occasioned by a change of policy in government. It is government's policy on housing, community health workers, the CBA they signed with doctors, the policy on NSSF, name it. So are you telling us that you want to advise that the government then reverses its decision on those policies so that we give county governments less money, they don't have that obligation, you revert the policy so that we say, okay, fine, these policies were well intended until the bill was withdrawn, but now that the finance bill was withdrawn, now that that's where we are, we want to rethink the policies. Then finally, and I'm glad you just the other day you are representing the people of Suba. Why is it so easy to make a decision to slash funds for county governments, and you find it difficult to tell members of the National Assembly to equally slash CDF? Why? Isn't this legislative impunity, whereby we are saying, because we are legislators, we will protect that which is seen to be ours, and let that which is borne by governors to suffer the consequences of the hard decision? Finally, but not least, Minister, this is not part of this. I would love to hear what you have to say about what the courts have already said about CDF. CDF is 68 billion this year. The shortfall now brought in because of these policy changes is 61.2 billion, just matching. It means, therefore, if you agreed with the court's decision that CDF was unconstitutional, it means that you would be having the money to give the county government. So, as our new CS for Finance, do you want to agree with the courts that CDF is unconstitutional? Or do you still, want to perpetuate that illegality? Of course, you are there, and with good reasons. When that decision was made, you tweaked the law and managed to survive. But do we want to continue that way? Thank you very much, Mr. CS.
Honorable, the majority in the Senate, my friend Boni Khalwale, you have talked about the executive giving a decision, or coming up with a decision, and treating it as a legislative decision, and that we don't have power, which is true, to amend, and that the courts will declare whatever we come up with as illegal and maybe unconstitutional. Yes, it is true that when the President declined to assent to the Finance Bill of 2024, he indicated under bullet number 5, I don't think you have this memorandum from the President, although the President is also part of the legislative process. We, in our own wisdom, we made the President part of our legislative process, including on budget matters. But the President said, this is what he said, that Father, I have directed the National Treasury, and I underline the word direct, and I'm asking, who is he directing? He is actually directing the National Treasury, because I would have had a problem if he directed the National Assembly or the Senate, Parliament. But directing National Treasury is perfectly within his powers as the President to immediately submit to Parliament. And the direction or the directive was to submit to Parliament amendments to the Division of Revenue Act 2024. And that is exactly what we have done. We have not reduced any share of revenue to counties. What we have done is to submit a proposal to the organ that has the power to do so, and that organ is Parliament, to amend the Division of Revenue to reflect the reduced revenues occasioned by the rejected finance bill. So the President was actually directing my office and my ministry to submit to Parliament legislative proposal to amend the law. And that is what we have done. So I don't think we have done anything illegal and unconstitutional to that effect. Parliament has all the powers to deal with this matter. And the Honorable Boni, Senator Boni, you have talked about my pet topic as your number 2 issue, and that is the revenue leakages. As a matter of fact, we would not be here today if we mainstreamed proper financial management, prudency in our financial system. And I can't agree with you more. It is not just about the revenue collection, it's even the revenue use, and at both levels of government, national and county. And I'm addressing Senator Boni Khalwale, whom I know very well, is passionate about proper use of public funds. Mtetezi, yeah, wanyonge. So I absolutely agree, and that is why today I signed off 560 million funds to help us procure the system that would help us to do E2E procurement beginning January, because we have been procrastinating and pushing forward this in almost eternity. We must do it. Then on the issue of KRA, I, again, have pronounced myself, the President has pronounced himself on reforms at KRA. The first institutions that I held a meeting with immediately after my swearing in was KRA. And we are in the process of coming up with a system. The system that we have at KRA is over 10 years old. So we must modernize, we must come up with a new system to collect our taxes, and we must also talk to KRA staff to change the mindset. Let me move a little quickly. Again, here there is the non-discretionary expenditure, which have been occasioned by changes in government policies. That is true, but I think this is a big and wider issue to be dealt with. Some of the decisions that we take, and that is why, under my leadership at the Treasury, I want predictable tax regime. I don't want us to come up with changes in tax policies almost every day, because I think that is what has occasioned largely some of the non-discretionary expenditures that we are encountering in the counties, and even at the national government level, by the way. So I am in agreement that we need to keep our policies predictable so that we can avoid unnecessary disturbance and let me call it internal shocks to our economy. Why is it so easy to slash funds for the county government and not NGCDF? Senator Boni and the committee, maybe for your information, we as Treasury proposed to reduce NGCDF, but do we have power to pass the appropriations bill? No. It is passed at the National Assembly. So that is my answer to that. What is my view about NGCDF in the light of courts declaring it unconstitutional? With all due respect to the committee, I would request that I don't give my opinion on this, because I'm told this judgment is coming. There's a judgment coming this week. So allow the judiciary to deal with it, Senator Boni, if you don't mind. I don't want to enter into some territories that I may be accused of other things. What do we call it? Where you get into the space of the judiciary, sub judice. Yes. Honorable Nyonka, I think, has a very strong opinion, and I understand him. Yeah. You know, the people of Kisii elected him to protect money, especially money going to counties, that we shouldn't cut it. The only place where I don't agree with him is that we have money. I think this is a language that we must debunk. We don't have money in this country to run to meet our expenditure effectively. What we must do is to make sure that the money that we get more. So we will get more, A, by collecting more, B, by using what we have prudently, and 3, cutting on expenditure. So as it is, if you look at our budget figures, we don't have money. We don't have that money. And I've just demonstrated. We actually have been living a lie as a country. We are borrowing money to meet our recurrent expenditure. So we must, and even the commercial debt outside there, we borrowed Eurobond just the other day to pay another Eurobond at 11% interest rate. So these are things that we must stop. And the best way to stop it is to accept fiscal consolidation and also to accept expenditure. And not only accept it when that cut is somewhere else. Even when the cut is affecting us, we should accept. Parliament, executive, judiciary, and the counties. All of us must agree and accept a cut. I've been asked by the substantive chair to internalize, and I think the chair, the session chair, you also alluded to this, that I should internalize what the members are saying. If you noticed, I don't know whether I betrayed myself, but I was very, very attentive when each member was speaking, and I was trying to internalize. And by the way, I am completely in agreement. If we had more money, we should give counties even more than 400 billion. The only thing I'm saying is that the present economic situation does not allow us to live normally. We must live a little bit abnormally by cutting our clothes according to our sizes. Each one of us must tighten our belts. And then the substantive chair also said that I am indicating that that money going to the counties is 24.2%, that is not accurate. That is actually less than 15% based on projected revenue. But I think the substantive chair is not talking about what is in the Constitution. He is not quoting the Constitution. The Constitution, the people of Kenya in their own wisdom, decided to peg the 15% to the last audited accounts. So if I go by the Constitution, the provisions of the Constitution, it is 24.2%. And I even had some latitude and used the last revenue collection of 2023-24, it is still 16.6%. But if you now base it on projected revenue, which is a projection anyway, then it comes to 14.4%, which is below 15%. But that is not the Constitution. How do you expect the county governments to deal with these expenditures? I think that, again, I have addressed. Finally, the issue of equalization fund has come up. And I'm in agreement that, you see, this fund was supposed to run for a period, is it 20 years? And terminate, or if with the approval of Parliament, then would be extended for a further period. But then, from 2014, when this fund became active, that it should have been operationalized, it faced a number of challenges. That Treasury, first, there were claims that there is no legal framework, then Treasury was maybe not supportive of this. I was a member of the National Assembly during this period, and we kept on asking this question in the Budget Committee and even on the floor of the House. But then where we are is that a lot of this, many of these financial years, there was no appropriation. So as we speak, the fund was not appropriated for many financial years. There is, I think, about 10 billion. I may need to get the figures. I presented the same to IBEC the other day. There's about 10 billion amount or thereabouts, which has been appropriated and has not been disbursed. About 12 billion has been disbursed to the fund. Yeah, 12.4 has been disbursed to the fund. There's an amount that has not been disbursed. That is what we have now released, 147 million. You are asking me, Chair, where this 147? It's just a figure, just to be added to demonstrate, I would say, that we are alive to the fact that we need to pay the arrears. But at that rate, I would agree with you, we may not clear the arrears. But we made a commitment to IBEC. I made a commitment to IBEC. I didn't foresee this, so I didn't carry my commitment to IBEC. I think we agreed to settle it in 3 years, if I'm not wrong. I think it was 4 years. It was 4 years. So we are supposed to clear that arrears. So the 147, there's no scientific calculation to it. I think it was meant to round off from 7 point something to 8 billion. 7.87, I think, to 8 billion. Because what should have been provided in this year was 7.87 billion. So there is no scientific method through which we have